The galaxy waited in silence. On the capital world of Valthera Prime, a million stars shimmered through the glass walls of the Imperial Hall. Thousands of alien delegates filled the chamber, their bodies glittering with gold armor, silver skin, and strange symbols that pulsed with light. At the center stood Emperor Kala IX, tall and calm, his voice echoing through the hall like thunder. "Today," he declared, "we end the defiance of Earth." The crowd erupted in applause. The Empire had ruled half the known galaxy for 10,000 years. No species had ever dared to resist them. No world had ever refused their rule. Until now. On a massive screen behind the Emperor, an image of Earth appeared. Small, blue, fragile. "They refuse tribute," the Emperor said, his eyes glowing. "They refuse our protection. They even destroyed our envoys." The chamber hissed with outrage. "Savages," shouted one delegate. "They are primitive animals," cried another. Kala raised a single hand, silencing them. "No more words," he said. "Today, the Valtheron Empire declares war on humanity." Gasps filled the hall. The Emperor's voice rose like a blade. "By dawn, the human species will cease to exist." Across the stars, the message spread, a war declaration broadcast through every network, every translation system, every outpost. On the fringe worlds, merchants froze mid-trade. Miners dropped their tools. And in the blackness between galaxies, even smugglers turned off their radios, whispering, "They are going after Earth." No one could believe it. Humans were newcomers, a young race, barely a century into the stars. Their ships were slow, their weapons outdated. The Valtheron Empire, by contrast, commanded fleets of titanium leviathans that could burn a continent in seconds. It was supposed to be no contest. Far away, in a quiet control room under the Rocky Mountains, Commander Alara Vaughn watched the transmission unfold on a dim holographic screen. Her face was pale in the blue light. Around her, technicians whispered to one another, voices trembling. "He actually did it," one said. "He declared war." Alara didn't answer. She leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the Emperor's face. His expression was calm, too calm. "They think we're weak," she murmured. A young lieutenant turned to her. "Orders from the UN Council. All defense satellites to stand by. Should we?" "No," she said softly. "Not yet." She stood, straightened her black uniform, and looked at the glowing screen one last time. "Let them come." Meanwhile, on Valthera Prime, the War Council gathered in a chamber carved from pure crystal. Admiral Serax, commander of the Imperial Navy, knelt before the Emperor. "Our fleets are ready," Serax said. 3,000 warships, 2 million soldiers, and 1,000 planet breakers await your signal. Kala nodded. "And Earth's defenses?" Serax smirked. "Laughable. Their technology is centuries behind. They still use metal projectiles and nuclear drives. They have no idea what true power looks like." The Emperor turned his eyes to the stars beyond the glass dome. "Then let them learn." He waved his hand. The order was sent. Within seconds, the skies above Valthera Prime filled with ships, colossal engines roaring, wings unfolding like silver blades. The fleet stretched for miles, each vessel marked with the Imperial crest, a burning sun devouring smaller worlds. The greatest armada in history began its journey toward Earth. As the alien fleet moved, humans everywhere held their breath. In New York, the streets were empty. In Beijing, the sky glowed faintly red from orbital heat trails. In Moscow, leaders argued behind closed doors, while families hid in underground shelters. News anchors spoke in tight voices. The Valtheron fleet has entered Sol space. Estimates suggest contact within 20 hours. The United Nations has authorized a global emergency. But amid the fear, something else stirred, something hidden. Deep beneath Earth's surface, beyond old missile silos and forgotten tunnels, lay a black vault known only to a few. It was built before first contact, before humanity even knew the Valtheron name. Inside it, hundreds of screens flickered with unreadable symbols. Machines hummed quietly, waiting for a single code. The name of the program, Project Blackveil. And at its heart slept the Pulse, a weapon so advanced that most scientists who worked on it didn't even understand what it did. Back in the command center, Elara stood before a dark monitor that showed only one word. Standby. Her second-in-command, Major Holt, approached. We've lost contact with the lunar outpost. They're jamming everything. Should we engage orbital defenses? Elara shook her head. No, we do nothing until they strike. He frowned. With respect, if we wait too long. She turned to him, her eyes calm but cold. Major, the moment they fire on Earth, they lose everything. He hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Elara looked up at the stars on the ceiling display. Somewhere out there, the Empire's fleet was crossing the void, confident, unchallenged, certain of victory. They had no idea that humanity's silence was not weakness, it was patience. Hours later, a Valtheron broadcast filled every human screen. Admiral Serax appeared, smiling, his scaled face lit by the glow of his warship. To the people of Earth, he said, his voice cold, we give you one last chance. Kneel or be erased. No one answered. The Admiral leaned forward. Then so be it. Behind him, alien soldiers cheered. Weapons charged. The fleet aligned. And in the quiet of Earth's command room, Elara finally gave her order. Prepare Blackveil for activation. The technicians froze. Are we sure? Elara's voice was steady. We warned them. The ground rumbled faintly, somewhere deep below. Lights dimmed, systems clicked online, and one line of text appeared on the main screen. Armed. Waiting for trigger. Elara looked up at the stars and whispered. They think this is their victory. She paused, her face unreadable. They have no idea what waits for them. And as the alien fleet closed in, the countdown to humanity's greatest secret began. 3 years before the war, Earth's sky had changed. For weeks, astronomers reported strange readings beyond Jupiter, lights moving too straight, too fast, too perfect. The world thought it was a comet, maybe a lost probe. Governments stayed silent, satellites watched, and for a moment, humanity dared to believe it wasn't alone. Then the lights stopped, and one morning, a single message appeared across every frequency, in every language. We are the Valtheron Empire. Do not fear. Submit, and you will be protected. It wasn't a greeting. It was a command. The world froze. News anchors struggled to speak. Presidents and generals met behind closed doors, while ordinary people stared up at the stars with equal parts hope and dread. They came 3 days later. The Valtheron ship was the size of a city, a shining spear of silver and blue that entered Earth's orbit like a god descending from heaven. Its shadow covered half the Atlantic Ocean. The United Nations held its breath. For the first time, every nation spoke with one voice. A single representative was chosen to greet them, Dr. Elias Rourke, a linguist and peace advisor. He stood on the landing platform at the Geneva Peace Hub as the alien craft descended, his hands shaking. Cameras from around the world streamed live. The ship opened with a sound like thunder, and a ramp extended, glowing faintly. Then they walked out. 3 figures. Tall, elegant. Their skin was metallic, silver with faint blue veins that pulsed like light through glass. Their eyes glowed gold, and their faces were calm but cold, as if they were looking at something lesser. The lead figure spoke first, his voice perfectly translated through the air itself. I'm Envu Kalais of the Valtheron Empire. You are children of a small world. You will join our empire and serve under our law. In return, you will be protected from yourselves. Rourke swallowed hard. We welcome contact, but Earth is an independent planet. We don't serve anyone. Kalau's eyes tilted his head, studying him like a strange animal. Independence is a myth of the weak. The air grew cold. The meeting was broadcast everywhere. Homes, schools, bars, churches. The whole world watched as humanity faced its first visitors from the stars. The Envo raised his hand, and a small sphere appeared, floating above his palm. It projected images, planets burning, fleets conquering, empires kneeling. "This is what happens to those who resist," he said. "Your world will not survive war. You are fragile. You have one moon, one planet, no colonies, no defense." He stepped closer to Rourke. "Kneel, and we will preserve you. Refuse, and we will erase your skies." For a moment, the entire world seemed to stop breathing. Rourke didn't move. His voice shook, but his words were clear. "We are not slaves." Kalau's eyes blinked, confused, then smiled. "Then you will learn." He turned away, motioned to his soldiers, and within seconds, the aliens vanished back into their ship. The ramp retracted, the hull closed, and the vessel rose silently into the clouds. Hours later, it disappeared from orbit, without another word. The world panicked. Stock markets crashed, riots broke out, and every military on Earth went on full alert. Scientists worked day and night to understand Valtheron technology, but it was centuries ahead. Energy drives that bent gravity, holes that regenerated damage, weapons that could cut through mountain rock. But not everyone was afraid. A quiet group inside the United Nations, a secret committee of scientists, generals, and philosophers, saw something else in the alien arrogance. They saw weakness. If the Valtheron believed humanity was primitive, they wouldn't expect resistance. They wouldn't look too closely. So they began a project, something hidden even from most governments. It began with a single message from Dr. Rourke, written the night before he vanished. "They think they understand power. Let's show them something older." That note became the seed of Project Black Veil. Under Antarctica, deep inside abandoned research tunnels, the world's greatest scientists gathered in secret. They were from every nation, rivals, enemies, strangers, working together under one symbol. A black circle marked with a single pulse line. They studied electromagnetic waves, dark matter resonance, and quantum time fields, things that most of the world considered science fiction. Until they found it. Hidden within the Earth's magnetic field was something unnatural, a faint rhythm, like a heartbeat. No one knew what it was or where it came from. It had been there long before humanity, pulsing gently through the planet like blood through veins. Dr. Rourke's research called it the echo. He believed it wasn't just a natural phenomenon. It was a pattern, a message, from something ancient, something that wanted to be found. 4 months they studied it. Then one night, while testing a new resonance generator, the echo reacted. It answered. A shockwave burst through the lab. Lights flickered. Every magnet, every wire, every electronic system in a 100-mile radius glitched for exactly 1 second. And then it stopped. The scientists stared at each other in silence. The readings were impossible. The signal had adapted. It had rewritten itself. From that day forward, they called it the pulse. They didn't know what it was, weapon, signal, intelligence. But they knew one thing. If it could speak, it could fight. Back in Geneva, the world waited for the Valtheron to return. They never did. Not for months, not for years. It was as if they had moved on. But humanity didn't forget. Project Black Veil grew in silence, expanding across secret bases under every continent. The pulse was studied, refined, and contained, barely. Every time they activated it, strange things happened. Computers spoke without input. Machines moved on their own. Power grids flickered as if the planet itself breathed. The scientists warned the generals, it's learning. It might not be ours to control. But the world ignored them. They believed if the Valtheron ever returned, this would be their only chance. And 3 years later, when the Empire's fleet finally crossed the void and the Emperor's voice declared war, Ilara Vaughn stood in that underground room, staring at the machine Rourke had died to create, a sphere of black energy that pulsed with faint light. No one else knew what it could do, but she remembered his final note. They think we are fragile. Let them touch the dark and see what wakes. The first explosions lit up the sky before sunrise. At 4:12 a.m. Universal Time Coordinated, the Valtheron fleet entered low orbit. Thousands of glowing ships cut across the heavens like silver knives. They didn't hide. They wanted Earth to see them. Every major city, New York, Lagos, Tokyo, Rio, London, looked up as the stars moved unnaturally fast. Then the world went dark. The aliens activated their jamming fields. Phones, satellites, radios, even power grids died at once. Screens turned black. Electric lights blinked out, one continent after another. Within minutes, the planet's surface was silent, a world of 8 billion people thrown into night. Children cried. Generators failed. Panic spread through streets filled with the smell of smoke and fear. And high above, the Valtheron admiral smiled. Admiral Serax, commander of the Imperial Armada, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Obsidian Dawn. His scaled hands rested behind his back as he watched the blue planet below. Primitive, he said quietly. They build with stone and light, and call it civilization. A young officer turned to him. Admiral, ground defenses are weak. Atmospheric resistance minimal. Should we begin orbital bombardment? Serax studied the planet for a moment. No, let them see us first. Let them understand what they defied. He raised one clawed hand. Deploy the scouts. Begin occupation protocol. Dozens of smaller ships detached from the fleet, glowing like comets as they descended into the atmosphere. Across Earth, people ran into the streets as burning streaks filled the sky. In Africa, metallic shapes landed in the Sahara, forming bases of light and glass. In Asia, strange drones moved through the air, scanning everything. In Europe, an entire mountain range disappeared in a single flash, vaporized by a beam from orbit. The world was watching its own funeral. The United Nations' last functioning bunker was in Switzerland. Inside, command centers glowed with emergency lights. Generals spoke in whispers. Every map on every screen was covered in red. 78 ships over Europe, someone said. Another 30 near the Pacific Rim. Communications lost with half the world. Commander Alara Vaughn stood in silence. Her jaw was tight, her hands still. She stared at the holographic map of the solar system, thousands of enemy signatures closing in like a wave. Major Holt approached her. They've taken the orbitals. We can't reach the moon base. Project Black Veil is still offline. Alara didn't look away from the map. Good. Holt frowned. Good. She nodded slowly. The longer they think we're powerless, the closer they'll come. In orbit, Admiral Serax watched as his troops began landing operations. Humans tried to fight. Tanks rolled through deserts. Jets launched missiles, but nothing worked. The Valtheron shields absorbed every strike like rain on glass. Serax smirked. Their weapons are pathetic. Even the Jalak gave us more of a fight. An officer laughed. Shall I prepare the Emperor's victory message? Yes, Serax said. And prepare the annihilation sequence. I want this world cleansed before the next cycle begins. The officer turned to leave, but something caught Serax's attention. A flicker. The navigation screen glitched for less than a second. A static pulse, faint but visible. Then it vanished. He frowned. Did you see that? See what, Admiral? He stayed at the console. A disturbance, a magnetic anomaly. Near the southern pole. Planetary interference, perhaps. Serax looked again. The readings were gone. He let out a small laugh. Ignore it. They can't even keep their lights on. But deep below, the pulse was already stirring. Beneath the Rocky Mountains, the floor of the command bunker trembled softly. Lights flickered, and a low hum filled the air. A technician shouted, "The pulse is responding to something, an external signal." Alara toned sharply. Responding how? Energy fluctuations, electromagnetic patterns across the poles. It's like it's listening. The hum deepened. Metal plates rattled. The entire bunker seemed to breathe. Alara felt the vibration in her chest, a slow, rhythmic thump, like a heartbeat under the ground. Is it safe? Holt asked. Alara didn't answer. She looked at the screen. Lines of alien code appeared. Not human, not Valtheron. Symbols none of their systems could recognize. She whispered, "It's waking up." Back in orbit, the Valtheron fleet prepared for final assault. Weapons charged, power levels climbed. The Emperor's face appeared on Serax's screen, his golden eyes shining. "Commander," the Emperor said, "you will begin the cleansing of their world. Leave nothing standing. Yes, Majesty, Serax replied, bowing. It will be done. He turned to his officers. Begin countdown. 10 minutes to total strike. Engines hummed. Energy cannons locked on cities below. And then, the glitch returned. Every ship, every display, every sensor blinked. A sharp, piercing tone filled the air. Systems went dark for half a second, then rebooted. Serax growled, report. Unknown interference, Admiral. Origin, Earth's magnetic poles. He slammed his clawed hand on the console. Find it and destroy it. But before they could track it, the interference vanished, as if it had never been there. In the command center, Elara watched as the readings spiked again. The pulse is charging itself, said the technician. It's not waiting for the trigger. It's choosing. Elara stepped closer to the control panel. The lights reflected in her eyes. How long until it's fully active? Unknown, the man said. At this rate, less than an hour. Holt whispered. We don't even know what it'll do. Elara's voice was calm but heavy. Neither do they. She turned to the main console, entered her code, and spoke clearly. Begin synchronization. Link the pulse to Earth's defense grid. That could do it. The technician's hands shook as he obeyed. Somewhere deep underground, the pulse brightened. The hum became a roar. Power surged through the planet's crust, lighting up old cables, abandoned bases, and forgotten satellites. Outside, people in darkened cities looked up as the night sky shimmered faintly with green and blue light, like the aurora, but stronger, faster, alive. And far above, in the Admiral's fleet, every system began to flicker once more. Serax snarled, Enough! Fire all weapons! End this world! But when his crew tried, the controls didn't respond. The ships froze mid-air. Energy levels dropped. The entire Valtheron armada went silent. One by one, their lights began to fade. Serax turned toward the planet, his golden eyes narrowing. What have they done? He whispered. On Earth, Elara watched the pulse display stabilize. Phase 1 complete, said the technician. Elara exhaled slowly. Then it begins. And far above, the sky burned, not with fire, but with the birth of something far greater. The timer started at 60 seconds. No one knew who began the countdown. Not the humans in the bunker, not the aliens in orbit. But every screen, every system, every device across both fleets and continents suddenly displayed the same glowing number. 00:60. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Admiral Serax stared at the numbers flickering across the bridge of his warship. Who authorized this? He roared. No one answered. The countdown continued. 0:58. Technicians shouted. It's spreading through every system. Not just ours. Every ship, every planet, every channel. Serax slammed his clawed hand on the console. Trace the signal. But the source was nowhere. It came from everywhere. The stars, the ship walls, even the Admiral's own command implant buzzed with the same rhythm. 0:52. Admiral, said one officer, his voice trembling, it's also on their world. Earth systems are displaying the same numbers. Serax glared at the planet below. Then this is their doing. In the bunker under the Rocky Mountains, Commander Elara Vaughn stood frozen, eyes fixed on the main screen. The pulse was active. The entire room vibrated with deep, rhythmic waves, as if the planet itself had come alive. Sparks jumped from the cables. Monitors flashed symbols no one could translate. Major Holt's voice cracked. What's happening? Elara's hand gripped the table. It's counting down. Counting down to what? She didn't answer. She didn't know. 0:45. The sound deepened, a pulse so powerful that glass shattered along the control room walls. Technicians covered their ears. A few screamed as the headsets burst with static. But Elara didn't flinch. Her eyes locked on the screen where the pulse's energy reading climbed higher and higher, beyond every limit. It's not attacking, she whispered. It's rewriting. High above, Admiral Serax's fleet began to flicker. Energy levels dropped. Hull temperatures fluctuated. Gravity fields twisted. Admiral, an officer shouted. Navigation failure. Shields unstable. Serax turned, furious. I said stabilize it. We can't. Our systems are being overwritten. 036. Every ship in the armada started to shake. Lights flickered red, blue, then white. From orbit, the fleet looked like a storm of dying stars. Shut down all communications. Serax ordered. Cut every link to the planet. But it was too late. In a distant corner of space, the Valtheron Emperor sat upon his crystal throne, watching the broadcast from his capital world. His court stood silent as the fleet's signal turned into noise. What is happening? He demanded. No one knew. A minister stammered. It appears their ships are being erased from all channels, Majesty. The signal is eating itself. The Emperor's voice dropped into a whisper. Impossible. 030. He rose slowly, his eyes reflecting the blue light of the countdown. Find me the source. There is no source, said the minister. It's as if the universe itself has begun to. The feed cut to static. Back on Earth, chaos filled the bunker. Lights dimmed, alarms wailed, and the entire facility trembled. A technician screamed, "Magnetic fields are collapsing." Alara yelled over the noise, "Hold the system steady. Don't fight it. It's too strong. Let it finish." She stayed at the display. The pulse no longer looked like a weapon. It looked alive. Waves of dark energy rippled through its core, forming strange, circular patterns, like symbols carved into light. 025. Alara whispered, "It's communicating." To who? Holt asked. Her voice was low. Not to us. In orbit, the Valtheron ships began to vanish. Not explode, vanish. The first to go was the destroyer Velka 7. Its entire structure shimmered, pixel by pixel, before dissolving into the vacuum like mist. Then another ship, and another. Panic erupted across the fleet. Admiral, ships disappearing in Sector 12. Now Sector 8. Half the fleet is gone. Serax's claws dug into the armrest. Where are they going? No one could answer. Every scanner, every sensor returned the same result. Nothing. No debris. No energy trace. Just empty space. 017. In the bunker, the main monitor flickered between static and strange imagery. Flashes of light, spirals of unknown symbols, echoes of voices speaking in multiple languages at once. Alara watched, mesmerized. The pulse wasn't just destroying. It was absorbing. It was taking. Holt grabbed her arm. "Commander, we need to shut it down." She shook her head. "You can't shut down a storm." Admiral Serax staggered as his ship began to lose structure integrity. Lights dimmed, gravity failed, alarm screamed. His officers floated helplessly in the air. 010. The Admiral shouted, "Open a channel to the Emperor." "Static. Open it." More static. "Someone answer me." Then, through the noise, a voice, not human, not Valtheron, echoed through every ship and every speaker. The cycle resets. The words were calm, cold, final. 005. Serax's golden eyes widened. Who? 004. 003. 002. A brilliant white light consumed the bridge. 001. And then, silence. Midnight. From Earth, the sky went still. Where thousands of glowing ships had once filled the heavens, now there was only empty space. No sound, no fire, no debris, just stars. People stepped out from shelters, their faces pale in the cold light of dawn. The world was quiet. In the command bunker, the pulse's hum began to fade. The monitors returned to normal, one by one. "Readings?" Alara asked. A technician wiped sweat from his forehead. "Nothing. They're gone." "Gone where?" He looked at her, shaking his head. "Every trace of them. Every ship, every signal. It's like they never existed." Alara turned toward the black sphere of the pulse, now dim and still. She whispered, "1 minute." Major Holt swallowed hard. "Did we do that?" Alara didn't answer. She was staring at the faint symbols glowing on the pulse's surface, patterns that hadn't been there before. They looked like stars forming a new constellation. In his palace on Valthera Prime, The Emperor stood alone. The fleet was gone. The broadcast had ended mid-sentence. And then, for just 1 second, every light in the Empire flickered, and he heard a whisper through the walls of his throne room. "We are awake." He froze. "Your time has ended." The voice vanished. He stood there, trembling, realizing what no emperor had ever imagined. The humans hadn't destroyed his fleet. They had awakened something greater. The stars had never been so quiet. For hours after the disappearance, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The mighty Valtheron Empire, the conquerors of 1,000 worlds, had lost its entire fleet in 1 minute. Not a single ship returned. Not one transmission escaped. It was as if the universe had swallowed them whole. On distant trade routes, alien captains shut down their comms in fear. On neutral planets, merchants whispered the same question. What did the humans do? No one had an answer. On Earth, dawn rose pale and silent over broken cities. Smoke hung in the air where alien drones had fallen like dead birds. The power was still out in most regions. People stumbled into the streets, half believing the end had already come, only to find the sky empty. No more ships, no more fire, just peace. In New York, survivors gathered in Times Square, staring at the sky where the Valtheron fleet had once glowed like a second sun. Some cried, some laughed, others just stood there, afraid to move, afraid the silence might break. News crews slowly came back online. Every channel showed the same image. The night sky, still and endless, with a faint shimmer of something that wasn't there before, a soft, golden ring in orbit, like a scar across space. Deep underground, the bunker was silent except for the hum of backup generators. Commander Alara Vaughn sat at her console, staring at the black sphere of the pulse. It no longer glowed. It just sat there, cold and lifeless, as if it had gone to sleep. Major Holt broke the silence first. All readings flat. No power signatures. Whatever that thing did, it's over. Alara didn't look up. No, it's never over. He frowned. We've checked the data. The Valtheron ships didn't explode or jump. They just vanished. She finished. He nodded slowly. Yes. She leaned forward, her reflection warped on the pulse's smooth surface. Then there's somewhere. Holt looked uneasy. Some way. Alara's voice was quiet. Energy doesn't vanish. It transforms. 3 light-years away, on the world of Jalal 4, a council of alien leaders watched intercepted human footage. Their screens showed the moment of disappearance, the flash, the static, the silence. They did this with no fleet, one said in disbelief. With no warning, said another. No retaliation. Just gone. They possess technology beyond the Empire's comprehension. No, said the eldest among them, his 4 eyes narrowing. Not technology. Something else. Something old. The room fell quiet. Everyone in the galaxy knew what came after an empire's fall. Chaos, rebellion, new wars. But no one dared to move against humanity now. Not after what happened in 1 minute. Back on Valthera Prime, the Emperor sat in his darkened hall. The room smelled of burnt ozone. Every crystal in the throne room flickered weakly, dim and gray. He had lost 3,000 ships, his best admirals, and his voice across the stars. His empire trembled. He replayed the footage again, the final seconds before the fleet vanished. The voice. The cycle resets. He clenched his fists. That voice had not been human. It was older, deeper, as if space itself had spoken. The Emperor turned to his council. Find that signal. Find its origin. His ministers bowed low. Yes, Majesty. But what? The source seems to come from everywhere. Every direction, every frequency. It is in the stars themselves. The Emperor's golden eyes dimmed. Then the humans are no longer just a species. They are a warning. On Earth, messages began to flood the global network as communications slowly returned. Every major government received the same encrypted transmission, a file that seemed to appear from nowhere, marked only with the symbol of a single pulse wave. When opened, it contained one line of text. Do not seek vengeance. The universe remembers. Elora read it in silence. Around her, the technicians whispered, afraid to breathe. Major Holt leaned in. Did we send that? Elora shook her head. No. He hesitated. Then who did? Her eyes flicked back to the pulse. It did. Weeks passed. The world began to rebuild. But something had changed. The scientists who studied the pulse noticed faint signals still coming from it. Tiny pulses of light, almost like a heartbeat. When they analyzed the pattern, they found it wasn't random. It was transmitting coordinates, not to any known location in the galaxy, but to somewhere beyond mapped space. A place no probe had ever reached. Elora received the report in silence. It's calling to something, she said. What could be out there? Holt asked. She didn't answer, because deep inside, she already knew. In the following months, strange things began to happen across the galaxy. Valtheron outposts stopped responding. Entire colonies vanished. Some ships returned home to find their onboard AIS whispering in human languages. The surviving Valtheron scientists tried to study the phenomenon, but their systems crashed every time they accessed Earth's sector. A single phrase kept appearing on their screens before shutdown. We remember what you tried to erase. Rumors spread. Some said the humans had created a god machine. Others believed they had awakened something buried beneath their world, an intelligence older than the stars. Whatever it was, no one dared to challenge Earth again. One night, in the bunker, Elora stood alone before the dark pulse. She placed her hand on the cold surface. It vibrated faintly, like a quiet breath beneath her palm. You protected us, she whispered. But why? The room was silent. Then, for just a second, a faint voice echoed inside her head. Because you asked. She froze. The voice was soft, almost human. They feared you. We remembered you. Her breath caught. Who are you? We are what you were meant to become. The light faded. The pulse went dark again. Elora stood still, her heart pounding. She realized that humanity might not have created the pulse. They had woken it. And whatever it was not finished. Far away, in the blackness of deep space, the coordinates the pulse had sent began to glow. Something vast moved in the dark. Not a ship, not a planet, but a shadow stretching across the stars. A whisper rippled through the void. The Guardians have awakened. And somewhere deep within the earth, the pulse answered, beating once, slow, heavy, alive. The aftershock of 1 minute had just begun. The halls of Valthera Prime were quiet now. Too quiet for an empire that once shook galaxies. Columns of white crystal lined the throne room, cracked from the shockwave that had followed the fleet's disappearance. The banners of conquest still hung, but the air smelled of dust and burnt ozone. The emperor of the Valtheron Empire sat alone on his throne, his golden eyes dimmed. He had not spoken in days. His fleet was gone. His admirals were dust. His enemies, silent. And yet, something whispered in the silence. At first, he thought it was the wind. Then he realized the voice came from his own comms array. Faint, broken static, repeating endlessly. Help, trapped, shadows, we see, we see. He stood slowly, every movement echoing through the empty hall. Patch it through, he ordered. The technicians obeyed, their hands trembling. The voice grew louder, hundreds of voices, overlapping, crying through a void that no longer existed. Emperor, help us, it's dark. No time, they are watching. The Emperor's blood ran cold. These were his admirals, his soldiers, the fleet that had vanished. Where are you? He demanded. The reply came like a sigh through static. Everywhere. No way. Inside the light. The signal cut. The lights in the throne room flickered. For a brief second, the Emperor saw shadows stretching across the walls. Not from the room, but from something behind reality itself. Hours later, deep within the Imperial Science Archives, the Emperor met with his chief scientist, Volorintesk. The man's face was pale, his hands shaking as he brought up the data. Majesty, he said, the readings are impossible. The fleet's signal still exists, but it's distorted. It's echoing from a point outside known space-time. The Emperor stared at the projection, a swirling storm of data, endless and shifting. You mean they are alive? Volarin hesitated. Not alive. Not dead. Caught. In what? He took a breath. Something that wasn't there before. A distortion field, like a pocket of folded space. It appeared the moment Earth activated their weapon. The Emperor leaned closer. A human weapon did this. Volarin's voice dropped to a whisper. Majesty, I don't think it was human. Far across the stars, on a forgotten mining world, miners unearthed something that had not seen light for millions of years. A stone obelisk, smooth as glass, humming faintly. When they touched it, it spoke in human language. The cycle resets. The watchers rise. The miners never made another transmission. Within days, their entire planet went dark. Back on Valthera Prime, the Emperor ordered silence. No one was to speak of the fleet. No one was to mention Earth. But rumors spread faster than orders. They called it the Ghost War, the battle that ended before it began, the army swallowed by light. Priests of the old faith whispered that the humans had touched the veil beyond, the border between creation and memory. The Valtheron had feared that place for centuries, calling it the Echo Abyss, a realm where time itself broke. And now, somehow, the humans had reached it. At night, the Emperor couldn't sleep. The whispers had returned. He would wake to find his palace cold, the stars outside flickering as if something vast moved between them. You left us, the voices murmured. You led us to the dark. He pressed his palms to his temples. You are not real. We are your reflection. He gasped, because when he looked up, the glass wall before him no longer showed his reflection. It showed hundreds of Valtheron's soldiers, their faces frozen in silent screams, their eyes burning gold like his. Then they faded, and the stars returned. The Emperor summoned Volarin again. What is the truth? He demanded. The scientist hesitated, then handed him a data tablet. Majesty, our ancestors recorded something like this long ago, a warning left by the first explorers of the void. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. A warning. Volarin nodded. About them. About the ones who came before all of us. He pulled up the hologram. A symbol appeared, ancient and glowing, a circle with a single pulse wave through its center. The Emperor stared. He'd seen it before, in the last image sent from Earth before the war began. The same mark, he whispered. Yes, Volarin said. It's older than the Valtheron Empire. Older than Earth. We believe it's tied to the thing that answered them, the entity they call the Pulse. The Emperor clenched his fists. Then find it. I don't care what it takes. Volarin swallowed hard. Majesty, if we find it, we may not survive the contact. The Emperor's golden eyes flared. Then we will die trying. The Empire does not kneel to ghosts. 3 nights later, the capital trembled. The main energy grid failed, and for 12 minutes, the planet's entire surface was plunged into darkness. In that silence, every citizen heard the same voice in their heads. The empire that forgets will fall again. And then the lights returned. Panic spread. Cities rioted. Priests burned holy texts. The emperor stood on his balcony, watching the flames rise below, his jaw tight. The voice still echoed faintly in his mind. Calm, patient, endless. He whispered into the night, "Who are you?" And the answer came, not from the sky, but from the stone beneath his feet. "We are what you buried." At that same moment, on Earth, Ilara Vaughn stared at new readings from a pulse. The black sphere glowed faintly again, soft golden light swirling inside it like a slow storm. Her assistant ran in, breathless. "Commander, the signal from Valthera Prime spiked. Their planet, it's resonating with our field." Ilara looked at the monitor. The same pulse pattern from Earth was repeating in Valtheron systems, slower, heavier, spreading. She realized then, the pulse wasn't just on Earth anymore. It had connected the two worlds. Far beyond both planets, in the uncharted darkness beyond known space, a faint shimmer formed, a rift opening in the void. Through it came whispers in 1,000 languages, the sound of memory. Inside that rift, something vast stirred, a shape made of light and shadow, remembering a time before stars existed. Two worlds have awakened, it murmured. The third will follow. And somewhere, far away, the Emperor dreamed, and saw himself standing beside a Lara Vaughn, under a sky neither of them recognized.